everyone. So I'm going to talk about 7 different positions that are common in the garden space and show you kind of the ergonomically ideal ways to do them just to keep your joints and your muscles protected. So the first one I'm going to talk about is bending. So you might be needing to bend in the garden to weed, and what sometimes I am guilty of doing, as in other folks, is bending over like this and spending a long time here, which is not ideal for your back. So instead of doing that, if you're able to get to a crouching position like this to do the weeding, another alternative is to kneel, which we'll talk about kneeling as position in a couple of moments, or having a stool or something to get lower, but anything to avoid that awkward bending of your back. All right, so the next move is lifting. So just like with bending, when you're going down to pick something up, you don't want to be just using your back muscles, but instead get as low as possible, lift up the object, especially using 2 hands. This is empty, but if it were heavier, that would be a lot safer to do with my arms and my leg muscles instead of my back muscles. Right, so the next movement is kneeling. So we might be kneeling to plant something or to weed. So in order to protect our knees, the best thing to do is to have something like a knee pad or a kneeler, something like that, so that when you're in this position for a long time, your knees aren't hurting you. An alternative also is sitting back on your heels, just to give your knees a break. Something else you can do is just doing one knee down and switching, just to give that a break, and making sure you're as close to where you're weeding or doing your activity as possible, so you're not arching your back or having any awkward movements. So the next move is reaching. So you might be needing to reach in the garden to prune a tree, or to reach up to save seeds. So instead of twisting your body awkwardly and doing the activity like this, most ideal position is to bring that object down to you like this and manipulate it from there. Or alternatively, you can use an object like a reacher to bring it down if it's too tall, or even better, if you're not tall enough but somebody you know is, asking for help. All right, so the next movement is turning. So you might be turning in the garden when you're shoveling materials from one area to another. So what you want to not do when you're shoveling is to get the material and then twist your whole body, because it's going to be bad for your back, but instead to turn your feet. So I'll show a demonstration of that. Pick up your materials and move your whole body and your feet to dump it like that. So the next movement is standing. So you might do a lot of different standing activities in gardening. One might be watering. So when you're doing that, you just want to make sure your feet are about hip width apart. You're not locking out your knees, so you kind of have a slight bend, and that also your head and neck are aligned, and just making sure you're not bending in any too awkward positions. So there are some activities in the garden you might choose to do seated, in a chair, or in a stool. So what I'm showing today is like deadheading. So important to not have your legs crossed if you're sitting down, kind of keep your knees close together, and to avoid any awkward twisting to the side. So instead moving the chair over to get to those places, and just making sure you're as close as possible and not